Oh my goodness, it worked. Okay, so we've got a brand new, and I'll show you how I got here from Unity Hub. Went to a new project. Let's go all the way back. Oh, and the hub closed completely. So I started a new project from Unity Hub. There we go. So from here, new project. We're going to use the 2D built-in render pipeline. Give it a good name, not that. And create, and then wait a couple minutes. And then just because I don't like waiting a couple minutes, I already did it. So we're open. And I'll start that over too. Matthew, you're down to 8 hours this week. So brand new, empty. I'm going to drag in my slimy boy that we made. So just drag him into the project window. Do it a second time if you didn't record it the first time. And now with that open and the inspector window, we're going to go change some stuff. So we're going to change sprite mode to multiple. And I think we're going to go, how tall do we make this guy? 32?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll keep that. So we'll do 32 pixels per unit. So in whatever our units are in Unity, he will be one of those. So we'll do 32 pixels per unit. I'm going to change my filter mode to point, no filter. Otherwise, it does some weird blurry stuff on it. So we don't want it to change anything. We want the actual pixels. If you're bringing in something a little more like that's going to end up looking vectored, then some of that is nice, but we don't want it. And yeah, I think that's all we need right there. What just happened? Oh, I clicked on advanced. Okay, so multiple, 32, point, no filter. All the rest of this is fine. I'm going to hit apply. And now I can open the sprite editor, which is this window here. And on this window, which may or may not take over your whole screen, I don't know, I'm going to open the slice here. And so instead of automatic, I'm going to go grid by cell size on this drop down. And we'll do 32. And you can see red lines maybe on the projector. That's not the best. I clicked the button that says sprite editor, but I'll show you in a minute. So yeah, moving forward before we go backwards. So I open the sprite editor. No, it's fine. We'll go backwards. But if we're here till 5 o'clock, it's your fault. So yeah, I did all this stuff here. Changed it. I had to change the sprite mode to multiple first, and then hit sprite editor. This button right there opens this guy. I hit the slice drop down. I want to do grid by cell size. And I typed in 32, and it decided 32 was great for the Y as well. And we got a preview with the red boxes around these. Perfect. Hit slice. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if it matters at this point, but I hit apply. So it feels like we're cutting it twice. Measure once, cut twice. That's not how it's supposed to go, but here we are. So now when I open this guy up, before it just add another image of this picture, and I can use this gizmo here to change sizes. Before it just looked like this. Now you can see we've got 4 individual images from our sprite sheet, which is perfect. It's what we want. We hear, sort of understand, fake it till you make it. All right. So now that it's cut up, I'm just going to drag him into my scene here. Yeah. And I drop him in here. There's other more manual ways to do this, but this is auto magic and we like it. So it's going to say, oh, you've got multiple sprites in this thing. You want to create an animation? Heck yes, I want to create an animation. Do some work for me. So we're going to call him slimy animation. Call it whatever. You can leave it as new animation. I just gave it a name. All right, and it made these 2 little guys here. And by default, we already have an animating thing. So I can just hit play. We can see our guy spaz endlessly. That might be a blood drop having a seizure. I'm not sure. It's kind of rough. But there he be. So for the purposes of this assignment, if you got that far, you're okay. You can your sprite stuff is done. I'm going to change it up. It's too much for me. I gotta change it. So down here when I created this, I got an animation and then this animation controller. We're not messing with the controller yet, but this little triangle, this little Triforce is trying to run away from us, whatever this is. We double click that guy. Then we get this window. And again, it may or may not maximize on you. It might be a much smaller. And I'm going to expand this. There we go. We can see, right? I hit this guy, expanded it. So my sprite, here's my 4 frames. And they're going like 1 per frame. Like this guy is spazzing hard. So I'm just going to try and grab all these. So I'm clicking and oh no. There we go. I'm going to click and try and box these and hold them. There we go. So I clicked, I started down here, hold down the button, drag a box, try to get all 4 of those, and now I can space them out. So I want to get them at least maybe 2 frames per. Can we go to 3? Yeah, I like it. 3. With my mouse in here, I'm using my scroll wheel to zoom in and out of the timeline. And so now it's going to go slower, which is nice. But I'm going to do a couple other things here. So I've got, looks like every 3 frames, I'm swapping to a new frame of my animation. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a key. And it's going to take my first frame and put it on the end. So my guy's going to sit a little longer on the ground before he bounces now. You can duplicate frames. You can do all kinds of stuff. But I at least want to do that. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to add a key here. And so he's going to sit on the ground for a while at the end. So he's going to down, up, fall back down. He'll sit for a while. No, this one I should probably copy. Yeah, let me do that. He should probably get flat before he rests, right? So pull this down. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to add a key here. I'm going to see if I can change this key. It's only let me do that. Oh, what if I do this? Delete this key. Select that one, and if I add one here, nope, still this guy. Okay, let me minimize or bring this down a little bit. It's too much. Go away. There we go. All right. So I've got it in place. I want this here. So I'm going to try and just grab that individual image from here and drag it to that key. Nope. Kai, Matthew, anyone remember we do this? I want this to be that. Yeah. But every new frame is only giving me the first one. Ah, there we go. That did do it. Okay. Classic. Control C, Control V. All right. All of that just so that he looks all flat and dumb. So scrunches down, jumps up, flat again, then he'll sit. Okay. And we stretched out the keyframes. And so it's just Control C, Control V. Let's see what that does for us. I'm hoping for a smoother animation. It's almost too slow at this point, but it's better than the spaz that we were having earlier. He was like freaking out. All right. So this can be just a guy in our level. This can be our character. This we make him our character. Yeah, let's do that. He's just going to bounce around. We'll move him around. All right. So again, we're going to keep this really simple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this scene that I've got as no. We're going to start with top down. Top down 110 slimy whatever. I put my initials on it. So I'm just saving this into my scenes folder. And so we're going to start with kind of your Pokemon, Legend of Zelda, like there's no gravity, we're just moving around. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing kind of that we did when we did our little Plinko. And I'm going to start dropping in 2D sprites. So I'm going to go game object, 2D object, sprites, and we will start with a square. And we're just going to build our walls just like we did. So then zoom in or out. Or you can just grab the camera and then hit F, and that'll zoom in on it. So whatever you select in the hierarchy, and then with your mouse in the scene view, hit F, and it'll frame in on that. Super helpful. All right, so I want this wall just inside my camera view. Then I'll duplicate it and move it up. So I'm again just trying to box my character in. So game object, 2D object, sprites. I'll do another square. I don't know what this slime did, but we're boxing him in. He's not getting away from us. And I'll do a couple more. Just do a couple more squares to make like rooms or something. I don't know. Yeah. Castle over here. Use your imagination. And this guy has already got nothing on him. Perfect. All right. So we can start with any shape. If you remember when we had our little Toy Story day in here, the scripts are like little sticky notes. We can put them on whatever, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and make a script, and then we'll think about applying it to stuff later. So I'm going to just right click in here in my assets folder. And first I'm going to make a new folder because I like things to be organized. So I'm going to right click and create folder and call it scripts. I can't spell or type. Why am I here? I'm a fraud. Wow, I really cannot. There we go. It's called scripts. This guy's going to write code. He can't even name a folder. Okay, and in there, I will right click and create a C# script. And we'll call it something like top down player movement or something. Make sure it makes sense. Okay. By default, when you downloaded Unity, it should have said, hey, you need Visual Studio too, right? And you would have been like, yeah, cool, thanks. And it downloaded it and installed that for you. So let's just check some preferences here. So I'm going to go to Edit and Preferences on Windows, and that's under like File or under the Apple on the Mac. Is it Preferences? External? There it is, External Tools. Okay, and so I'm set to Visual Studio 2022 to open my scripts. If you don't have anything set there, you didn't get it installed when you installed Unity, but it should have. We're hoping it did. So anyway, that's where you'd set it. I'm just going to double click on this guy, and it's going to open up Visual Studio. And we have magic C# code. We've got our first sticky note. I don't need those top two things. I'm just cleaning up. I don't even need this. So I'm going to get rid of the start. So that we, by default, when we make a script, everything inherits from mono behavior. Everything's a behavior. And so we're just giving whatever that script is and more superpowers when we make a new one. So start gets called before the first frame update. So these are things like on start. When the game starts up, start them at 0 coins, start them on level world 1, whatever, right? Stuff that's going to happen only once when we first start. And then update literally gets called by Unity every frame. The problem with update being called every frame is really that it gets called every frame. So if you're playing and your game is chugging along at like 10 frames per second, it's getting called 10 times a second. If you are on a super fast, crazy PC or your PlayStation 6, I know it doesn't exist yet, right? And you're at 90 frames per second, this is getting called 90 times a second. So literally every frame update this gets called. So we don't want to put a whole lot of super crazy stuff in here, but we do need it. So I'm going to get rid of start because I'm not going to do anything in there just yet. But into my update, we're going to write code. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, and I've got my cheat sheet here right by my coffee. I'm going to declare a variable, which you've probably done in some class already, right? Ints and strings and whatever, right? So I'm going to make this public, and that means that I can change it in the inspector later. Super helpful. I'm going to make a float, which just means it's a floating point number. I could use an int, and we could use full numbers. Float means I can be like, I want this guy to go 1.273 fast because I'm whatever. We're going to make a float. We're going to call it speed, and or just call it move speed, just to even be more direct. And we can set it to a default, and Visual Studio is trying to help me out, and it's like saying 1 is a good move speed. I'm going to default to 10. We're going to move faster. And then, again, since I made this public, this is something we can change later. So do you remember when we were doing the platformer game, we could change the speed of our guy? This is exactly that. So we've got move speed, we can change it. Now an update, which gets called every frame, that is a great time to check for input. So I'm just going to leave a comment here. All right, we're going to check for input. Those are just comments. Those don't do anything. Those are notes to myself so that I know what's going on. All right, so I'm going to declare a new float. And then I'm going to spell it right the second time. We'll do a new float, and this will be horizontal input. Look at a word and it doesn't look like it's spelled right. Whatever. Okay. Horizontal input. We're going to set that equal to input dot get axis, and then guess what? Horizontal. So Unity does lots of cool stuff for us. It's already calling this every frame update. It's doing stuff for us. Here, there's a thing called an input manager, which we'll get into later. For now, trust me, it's magic. It happens. That's looking for horizontal input, and it's already got stuff set up. So right now, horizontal can mean my arrow keys. It can mean A and D on my keypad, or it can be controller left and right if I've got a controller plugged in. It gets all that. It does all this for us under the hood. Super nice. Thanks, Unity. So we're getting the horizontal. And I'm just going to copy that. And again, I like to just leave comments. A, so that I know what I'm doing. Helps me think about what my plan is. B, if anyone is ever working with you on a project and they're like, what the heck are you doing? The comments will help them figure out what you're doing. And if you're using something to help you write code, I just learned today, sometimes the AI that can help you write code goes off your comments. And so it actually helps your AI write code as well. We're not doing that today, but that's a thing. So I'm going to do another float. Also going to misspell that. I'm going to do vertical input. And almost the same thing we did before. I'm going to be checking for input.get axis and vertical. So I'm getting whatever sideways input's happening. I'm getting whatever up and down input's happening because this is my top-down Legend of Zelda, old school Legend of Zelda, not Breath of the Wild, or whatever that other one is that no one's heard of. I know she almost dropped out of the college when she found out that I hadn't played Tears of the Kingdom yet. So, all right. So now whatever this thing is on, I'm calling its transform, its position, and I'm saying translate yourself not to different languages, to different spots, and then saying translate along a new vector. I don't know why I've got this on vector 3. Interesting. I could do it too. Looking at my comments from old me, and I still don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so a vector 3 is x, y, and z, but we're in 2D, so we're only doing x and z. So no x and y at this point. Put that in the wrong spot. So I'm going to go horizontal input, vertical input, and 0. So we're not going to move toward the player, not that they would even understand. And then translate new vector 3. Yeah. There we go. Okay. And all of this, I'm going to do times, that little star guy, my move speed, and then also times, this is another one of those crazy things, time dot delta time. It ends up being a long line of code that doesn't fit. It's okay. I can just hit an enter key right here and we'll wrap it. And it still sees it as one line of code, but now it's more readable for us. So we're taking whatever this script is on and we're moving it by the horizontal and the vertical input. We're not moving it on the Z, which is in 2D just moving forward toward us. Wouldn't do any good. We're doing it times the move speed, right? Which I said we're going to start at 10. And times time dot delta time. And what time dot delta time is it smooths time for us because we don't know what our frame rate is. We were running along at 90 frames per second, and then someone shot 1,000 bullets at us, and we're doing 20 frames per second. This, in theory, this time dot delta time is going to say, when was the last time we were called here? Let's try and keep things kind of equal. So it's going to try and equalize things for us in case our frame rate goes up and down. So that's just some magic that's being done for us. And that's really it. So I'm going to save this, Control S. We're getting input and we're moving. And my disclaimer is we're going to do almost everything in here the simplest, dumbest way possible. There's 1,000, well, it's 100 ways to do anything in code. We're going to keep it as simple as possible because we're new to this, right? Mostly. Except for some Red Bull powered freaks in the room, but that's okay. Yeah. Okay, so that should be good. And then we come back to Unity after we saved it, and it's going to go through this thing and try to compile our script for us. If we mess something up, it'll tell us. Things won't work right. Okay. Save this scene. I'm going to drop in a couple more things while we're here. So I'm going to go ahead and create another 2D object. What we usually do for this assignment is we'll use a hexagon as our player. We'll drop that in, and we can change his color up, right? He's obviously Link right now. We can drop in some other things that we'll use later. I'm going to go ahead and drop in a circle. I like circles. Just planning ahead will make that circle yellow. Might be something cool later. All right, and we wrote our script and we're ready to go, right? No? What'd we miss? Yeah, the code's not on anything, so nothing would move. So I could just literally drag this onto something, and then it's got it. Or I could, like from here, have it selected and say add component, and then type in the name of the script I just wrote. So top-down player movement. Now what kind of ridiculousness is going on? I've got two things that are the player. That's okay. We can do that. We're allowed to do whatever we want. This is our world. Whoa. Whoa. And so WASD, and now we're moving around. Except we didn't put colliders on anything, so we're just super clipping all over the place. But hey, we're moving. Yeah. This is great. Yeah, the dragonfly is upside down, and we clip through all the walls. We'll fix it in the day one patch. It's all good. All right, let's fix that. So again, the script can be on anything. We can take it on. We can take it off. I'm going to change this hexagon back to just being something that hangs out. So I'm going to remove this component. Slimy boy will be our player. And we need physics in our world. So I'm going to go and grab all my boxes. And since they're all boxes, I can do this. I'm going to grab all of them at once. I'm going to hold down Control and just click, and click, and click. There's all my boxes. And now I can add something to all of them at the same time and really save myself time. Oh, I got a hand down here. Tutors. Mr. Crow would like some help. If you want to get paid. I mean, all right. So I grabbed all of my squares, which I didn't name yet, and I'm just going to add a box collider 2D to all of those. And it should wrap one around each of them nicely. So now our walls have colliders, and that's good. And this hexagon pointed guy, I'm going to add a polygon collider to. And that'll wrap around his shape. And then I'll put a circle collider on the circle. Who knew? I'm just adding colliders to everything. And then on my slimy boy, who is still basically a little red ghost, I'm going to add probably a circle collider as well. So I've got a circle collider on him, and I'm going to add rigid body 2D. So that's going to give him some physics. And so he will probably bounce off of walls and rotate around and do a bunch of other silly stuff until we fix it. So rigid body, I'll leave it as is, and we'll see what the problem is going to be here. I'm going to show you how to burn the souffle, and then we'll go fix it. Yep, I added rigid body to him, and he got gravity, so he just fell. And I can hit up, and he can try to go up, but then gravity takes over, and he falls back down again. So this is not the Legend of Zelda top-down that we were going for. Take Slimy Boy here. I'm going to go to his rigid body and just change gravity scale to 0. Now he cruises. He's just bouncing off of stuff. And he's doing his jump whether we're standing still or moving. But you know what? It's better than just nothing, so we're going to take it. All right. We're almost done with this level. Then we're going to make another level. Color it up, decorate it, do whatever. One last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a coin, right? Instead of just being a circle that's sitting there, I'm going to add first I'm going to make this is trigger, which means I can go through it and find out that I went through it in code. You saw me a minute ago, I like ran into the circle and he bounced off of it. He's like, oh, that circle's like solid. So now we're gonna phase into it. We're gonna find out in code that we phased into it, and we'll do something cool. So the other way to make a script, right? I like doing it down here because then it puts it in the folder for me, but I'll show you the other way. So with my circle that I will conveniently name coin, I can scroll down here and hit add component. And there's this thing that says new script. And I just make a new script from right here. And so I'm just going to call this pickup. Capital U, why not? Pick up. Don't put spaces. Don't put crazy characters in there. Letters and numbers, that's it. All right, and it created, but here's the problem that I've got with it. It created it out here in this folder. If I create it through here, it just drops it in the assets folder. So it throws it on the living room floor. It doesn't put it in the closet where it goes. So I'm going to pick it up and throw it in the scripts folder, just drag it in. Now we've got it there. And double click to open. Hello? There it is. Okay. Now I've got my pickup script. And again, I don't need these top two things. You don't have to delete these. It's just me being precious. And I don't need any of this stuff, actually. I don't need to change it all on start. I don't need to make any changes to it. I don't need to update it every frame draw right now. So I'm just going to delete all that. And I've got an empty class here. One thing to note, and I think maybe someone ran into this back there, this name, capital P, lowercase ICK, capital U, lowercase p, this has to match the name of the file. If I change this to like pickups now, it's not going to work. If I had a lowercase u, but the name in the file was uppercase, it might not work. So that has to match. So name it once on start and don't mess with it again. But if you do change it both places. Maya needs help. Or just wants to wave at everybody. I'm not sure. All right. Got a couple hands up. Good, I'm losing people. That means we're doing something. Sorry. Not really, a little bit.
I got in here, maybe took 10 minutes to load.
That happens. That happens.
I had to reload it because I accidentally opened the 3D project.
Ah.
I imported Little Watercat, and now I can add animation. You'd already started making the game, right?
Okay. Then get you caught up, or again, I'm live streaming right now, so you can watch it later. You can go to tutoring. Yeah. All right. So I've got to pick up, and what happens? I need to make disappear when player go through, right? That's what I want to happen here. So there's already a function that I can tie into that Unity is going to call. It's awesome. So it's on trigger enter 2D. The other one is not for us. That's for 3D. On trigger enter 2D, then we'll get a call from our 2D collider trigger. This, where it just kind of filled in some code for me, I'm struggling to remember what I did to make that happen, but I'll figure that out and I'll leave instructions for everybody. Your Visual Studio may not be as helpful as mine currently. Sometimes mine's too helpful, but I'll take it. So yeah, I just started typing in on trigger and it was like, yeah, I got you, and it filled this in. So on trigger enter 2D, collider 2D, collision, and now we just need to do some cool stuff. So we're going to check to see if that was the player, right? I gotta have NPCs running around. I gotta have bullets going around. I don't want this coin to just disappear when someone breathes on it. We want it to disappear when the player picks it up, right? Or the player runs through it. So we're gonna check to make sure that it was the player. So if, that's how we check stuff. I'm going to change this. That's what I'm going to do. I like this better. So instead of calling this collision, it helps me to call this other. So when this function gets called by Unity, again, magic behind the scenes, it's getting called and it's telling me what the other thing is that just came through. So I just like to call it other. It makes more sense. Then I keep it straight in my head. So if other, the thing that just collided with us, and dot game object, I'm going to say, okay, the thing that hit me that's a game object, it should have a tag, which I'll show you how to make in a minute. If other dot game object dot tag is equal to, and since we're comparing, it's two equals, and we'll say player. We'll tag our guy player. If the other thing that just hit us was the player, not a bullet, not a butterfly, player, then we'll do something. And this is really, really the most valuable, easiest line of code in the world. Destroy, and then what is called game object. So this means us. So this is a self-destructing coin. It's a kamikaze coin. If player hits us, this whole thing is going to disappear. It's gone. And so game object is just shorthand for this, us, this thing. One thing to note, if I decide I wanted to do something cool like, oh, play a sound or whatever, I need to do that before I call destroy yourself, because when destroy yourself gets called, nothing else gets called. It's dead. It's gone. So destroy is the last thing that should happen. Nothing else will happen because it's been destroyed. So that's it. So if the player runs into whatever this script is on, will self-terminate. It will unalive. And we'll look at a couple more things before we move on to our next file. What time is it? Oh, yeah, we got time. It's fine. Okay, so we got our slimy guy. We got this coin. We got to make sure his collider is set to trigger so that we get that on trigger call. And he's got the pickup script on him, so he should delete himself. The only thing we still need to do is to tag our player. So we got Slimy Boy over here. We scroll up to the top in the inspector of your guy. There's this tag. He's untagged. There's already a player tag created for us. I'm just going to hit that drop down, select player. Now he's tagged player. Now he'll make coin go bye-bye. Not that. He runs into that. The coin he makes disappear. Figure out how to actually give him money and stuff later. We made it disappear. Cool? All right, a couple more things that I want you to do. So I'm going to come down here to my assets folder. I've got scenes where my scene's at. I've got scripts where my scripts are at. I've got this stuff that I should have put somewhere, but I didn't. That's on me. I'm going to make a new folder. So right click in here, create folder. I'm going to call it Prefabs. Prefabs. And so this is where I can make copies of stuff all set up the way I like it, and I can just drag them in again later. So I'm going to grab my coin here first off, and I'm going to drag it down into my prefabs folder, and now I've got a coin that already has the trigger set up. It's already got its collider set up. It's already got the script on it, and I can just go crazy. And now this is Slimy's get rich quick scheme. Go off. And I'm going to do the same thing with this guy. So I'm going to rename him. So he's going to be Slimy dash top down, because he's a different type of guy. He moves up and down and back and forth and has no gravity. Now that I've got that done, I've got him named. He's got everything I want on him. He's got the script, the animators, the colliders, all of this stuff. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag him from the hierarchy into my prefabs folder. Now I've got a top-down Slimy that I can put anywhere. You want two of them? You can have two of them. Do you need help picking up all the gold coins outside your castle? get yourself a clone like Slimy Boy, and he'll just help you pick up all the stuff. Since he's a copy, they're both tagged player, and they can just both cruise around. All right, so that's prefabs. That's how we make stuff. I don't want to remake that coin every time. How many coins do I have in here? 10? Do I want to add the trigger every time? Add the script every time? No. Prefabs. That's what you want to do. All right, so I'm going to save this scene. So I've got my top-down scene, and it's kind of cool. But I'm going to go ahead and make a new one. Make a new scene. Sample scene, just leave alone. I'm going to make a file, new scene. We'll do a basic 2D built-in. Hit create. And basically that gave us already a camera. And we're going to do the same thing again. I want the player to be different. Like we're going to give him gravity, so I'm not going to use the prefab that we had before. But I can use the coins. That'd be fine. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing we did. I'm going to create 2D object sprites and squares. And I'm going to build the walls again around us so that we've got a nice place to experiment and our guy doesn't like fall out off the screen away from the camera. Those, I'll make another one. 2D, sprite, square. Control D to duplicate, drag it over. Got this. Now I'm going to do some other stuff. We're going to do a platformer now. So I'm going to make some more squares that are like platforms. So sprite and square. This there. Duplicate that. Put one up here. I'm building some stairs. So I can get up to this, where we'll put a bunch of coins. I can just drag those guys in. Now that I've got them, drag in some coins. All right, I'm going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to grab all my squares. I'm just holding down shift and clicking all of them until they highlight orange or red or whatever that is. And I'm going to add component, box collider 2D, and that's going to wrap them all in colliders so that we can stand on them, press on them, whatever. Now I need a player. So I'm going to go back to this guy again. No, do I? Yeah, I think I have to. Would have been cool. All right, we'll use him. I should have had a second sprite in here. So slimy animation, take 2. I don't want to overwrite what I did, but I think this is going to put me back at 4 frames. It's fine. We'll go with it. I'm going to add the circle collider that we had before. So circle collider 2D. I'm going to add the rigid body 2D. And this one, I'm going to leave the gravity on. So let me just hit play really quick and make sure it works. Let's see if I can engineer some chaos. All right, move him up there. He falls. And he's back to being super jittery. All right, so we got him. He falls. Let me just see. Let me make sure everything's working right. I want to see him roll over. That's what I want. Donk. All right, I can fix that. So if you want your guy to roll over, that's fine, but he's also going to stay relative. So when you say move left and he's like this, he's going to try and go up. So on the rigid body that I've got gravity on, I'm just going to scroll down here and open the constraints and just freeze his rotation. so that when he hits that, he'll stay upright. He won't roll unless you just like him to roll around. Okay, so he's all set, except I need a movement script on him, but I need a different kind of movement script now. So I'm going to go into I'm just do it the old way. I'm going to go into my scripts folder, right click. I'm going to create a new C# script. This should be the last one we do. Well, maybe. We'll see how excited I get. And this will be side scroll player movement or something that makes sense to you. And then we'll open it up. And then we'll steal from ourselves. So I'm going to grab all of that we had and copy it over here. And we'll use some of it and we'll get rid of the rest. So I'm pasting that in. So I've got a move speed still. That's great. I'm looking for horizontal input still. That's great. I don't need them to move up and down when I hit the arrow keys. We're going to hit jump. We're going to jump around. We're going to be bouncy. So I can get rid of this. I don't need that. And then so transform translate's going to equal horizontal input and 0. And 0. And then, so yeah, we're just changing that vertical input to 0 out, and we're good on that. So we can move side to side now, and gravity's going to get us. We're going to need a few more things, though, to make jumping work. Jumping's a little harder. So I'm going to come back up here and undo what I just did. And I'm going to need a start. So capital S, go, start. This can be private. It can be public. You can have no word there. That's fine. We understand public versus private? Yeah? Okay. So on start, I'm going to need to get something. I need some more variables up here. I've got a move speed, and I like that. Seems to be a good speed. But I'm going to create some more variables. So I'm going to need another public float, and I'm going to call this jump force. And I'm trying to remember where we started off. We start at 20. We'll probably need bigger. And then .0 F. Since I'm making this a float so that I can fine tune it, I could use it int, but we'll use a float. It's got to have the F on the end of it to match the word float. It's just a weird thing in programming. Deal with it. Public float. So I've got move speed. I've got jump force. I'm going to need to get a hold of the guy's rigid body. So I'm going to look for rigid body 2D. And we're going to call that just RB locally. If you ever see Unity code and it's got RB, they're probably talking about a rigid body. It's just a common shorthand. And what else do I need? Oh, I need some Booleans. Cool, cool. All right. We'll make those public just so that I can see them in the inspector. We don't need to change them there, but I like to see what's going on. So public, Boolean, and we're going to do is grounded. So if this guy's not allowed to play video games today, no, if he's on the ground, and that will just default to false. And then, wow, I don't know what that is. Thanks for the help, I guess. Public bool is virtual. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I mean, I think everything we do in here until we 3D print it. And then I'm going to make this should jump. And that'll be set to false. So these are my variables that I need. So I need the move speed. I need a jump force. I need to see, is it on the ground? Because we're not doing Minecraft creative mode where I can just jump up infinitely. We're only going to jump once. And should we jump? And I'll explain why in a minute. I need that rigid body that controls its physics that had the gravity so that I can boost him back up. So I've got this rigid body, and I'm going to grab it here on start. So RB is going to be, wow, thanks, Visual Studio. RB is equal to get component. So whatever the script is on, going to go out and look for a component called rigid body 2D. I'm going to say that is now equal to RB. this get component is kind of like a taxing call. So if I did that like on every update, it'd slow my Unity game down. So I just do it once on start. So I'm like, you're called RB now. Deal with it, and then we've got a handle on it. We've got a pointer to it, and we can use it. So that's what I did there in start. That's all I need to do. Need to change some stuff in update. So we've got input for horizontal. We're moving. Now I need to check some other stuff. So in update, which gets called every frame, however fast the frame rate's going. In update, we should be looking for someone's hitting buttons. We're looking for input. So I'm going to look for more input here. So if, and then input, yeah, right? So if input, and then I'm going to use another alias for get button down. And then I need more coffee. That's what's going on. There it is. So if get button down, and there's already stuff set up for jump. Unity knows we're up to no good. They already have all this set up. So jump is space bar. Jump is already mapped to some buttons on your controller. So if they hit the button and they're grounded. So if they hit the jump button and is grounded, they're already on the ground, then we're going to let them jump. So we got that. And all I'm doing here is I'm going to set should jump to true, if I could spell it. Should jump equals true. All right. I'll explain why. So in update, it's every frame, right? However fast the frames are going. Who's cried that someone beat him in Fortnite because their frame rate dropped? I'm looking at right. Yeah. No, some of you. Okay. So frame rate matters. We want to get input literally every frame, every time we can. But when we're going to do stuff with physics, like rigid body, I don't want the physics to I don't want my jump to suddenly launch me into space because my frame rate went up, right? So I'm not going to access physics from here. So we've got another thing besides update called fixed update. So I'll start typing and let Visual Studio help me out. So fixed update. This happens on a clock. It's not however fast the game's going. It's like there's a clock going in the engine, and I don't remember what it's set up by default. Matthew, do you remember? Like every, I don't know, so many times a second, but it's literally like clockwork. So this is a good place for us to call physics functions from without things going weird because the time changed or the frame rate dropped or something. So in fixed update, which gets called after update or at some other point because it's on literally on a clock, I'll just check, should we jump? So if should jump, then we'll do a thing. Booleans. Again, you guys you're already in coding classes. All right, so this is shorthand. So if I just call the name of a Boolean, I'm asking, is it true? This is the exact same as should jump equals true. Okay, it's just a faster way to type. The other way, if I wanted to check for if something's false, I put an exclamation point in front of it. You've seen this before? This isn't scary, different. All right, so I'm just using shorthand for my Booleans. If we should jump, then we'll jump. Basically, that's it. So the first thing I want to do is set the bool back to false so we don't actually end up typing more comments than code, but that's okay. Don't double jump. All right, so really quick before we do anything else, should jump, we're going to set back equal to false. Then we'll do the things. So RB add force on transform dot up times the jump force. Make sure I got that right. Yeah. So we're literally just saying add however much that number what we set it to up here, 20. Yeah. We're giving that many units of whatever this force is upwards. Big boost. We could do transform dot forward, and this would be like a, but that's not the game we're playing. So we'll do that. That's what we need to do in fixed update. There's a couple more things we'll need to do because what have we not really set yet? You paying attention? No? Is grounded. Yeah, we just assume we're grounded. So we're going to do that with something else. So this is actually going to be a bigger script than we've done yet. So this down, here in pickup, this on trigger enter, we're going to check that. So we're going to put a trigger at the bottom of our guy. This is not the most elegant way to do it. It's a fast way to do it. I'm going to put a little trigger box on the bottom of our guy. And if that is intersecting with anything else that's not the player, then we'll be like, oh, they're on the ground. And then if it's not, then they're in the midair, and we're not going to let them jump anymore because they're already jumping. Make sense? Sort of? And this even kind of works sometimes. It's not the best solution. It's just what we're doing. All right, so we're going to do an on trigger, enter 2D. And then we also need to check for on trigger exit 2D. And we can leave those private or public or whatever. So, yeah, we're just checking for anything. Well, I don't even care what the other one is. If our trigger is inside something else, then we're grounded. And if that trigger exits the other thing, then we're not grounded. We can jump. It tries to help, and then it says, no, never mind. Again, not the most elegant. There are way better ways to do this. We're going to find bugs with this. This is the quick way to do it. Hopefully, I think, yeah, this might be it. Huh? So depending on where our trigger's at, we could wall jump off of things. We can really mess this up. We've created not quite Bethesda level bugs, but we've got opportunities here. Yeah, happy accidents. That's what we call them. Perfect. Who said that? Extra points. If it was anybody else. All right, so we got that. I don't think we put that on anybody yet, did we? Couple more things to do to set this up. Hello. So I totally believe you when you say that Unity took 10 minutes to start up, because sometimes it just does that. All right, we got our new slimy boy. He's got these colliders on him, and he's got the rigid body on him. He just needs that script. So I'm going to search for scroll, and that's going to give me my side scroll player movement that I just created. See, I can change his move speed. I can change his jump force. The other thing he needs, since he's got this collider on him, let me just zoom in on him really quick. That is a physical collider. We want him to like not hit walls and stuff. So I'm going to give him another little collider underneath here. That's going to be his can I jump collider. So I'm just going to add, we'll do a box collider 2D. And that tries to wrap all the way around him. And so with my box collider 2D selected here in the inspector, first I'm going to make sure it's a trigger so that it calls those functions that I want. And then this little guy says edit collider, and I can hit that, and I can start to move where that collider's at. I'm going to put it right underneath here so that the other collider that is himself doesn't set it off. I'm going to make this tiny, he's got tiny little feetsies down here. Again, not the most elegant. Would I ship this game? No. No, we're going to get hate on Steam. This isn't the best way to do it, but it's going to work. All right. So I've got this little collider down here. that is invisible, that is just checking, do I have ground underneath me? That's it. All right, so that's done. We'll save the scene as something that makes sense before we break it. So side scroll 110, put my initials on it. There we go. We've saved the scene. Let's see if we broke it. It'll work. Okay, fell down. We're moving. Space bar is not making him do the jumps. Okay, let's do that. So again, I think we talked about this the first day. If I make changes right now and I've got this greened over so that I know that I'm in play mode, if I make changes right now, they're not going to save when I turn it off, but it's a good way to test things out. So this is a prime example. It's on. Whatever 20 is no bueno. So I'm going to come over here and I can barely see it, but I'm going to change my jump force to like 200 as Jack suggested, and then hit it. It's still a tiny jump. You know what? We got to go bigger. Change it to 1,000. Somewhere in the middle. Let's go 500. Still, wow. Why wasn't 200 big enough? We'll go to 300. We just need to get up to here, right? We need to get to where we're at. It's almost enough. Can he get the coins? Oh, he needs another platform or a little more jump force. He's making me nervous. He's moving so fast. 350. Why not? It's enough. But I didn't tag him as player, so he's just like standing there at the bank in front of all this gold going, man, I wish I could have some. Okay, so we'll turn it off. We figured out we like 350 for a jump force because that didn't save. And then we scroll up here and we tag this guy as the player. We cross our fingers. We say our prayers. Cool. All right. One more thing. Because I've got 6 minutes and I'm not letting you go. All right. Those are the 2 levels you need to turn in. So let me go through that first. So you just need to grab, forget sample scene, that's bunk. You will highlight this, shift, highlight that. You've got both scenes selected, right click, and then export package. And it should take everything with it. Should be good to go. I want to show you something else we can do with prefab. So I've already got my coins set up in 2 different levels, right? But I think it could be cooler. So since it's a prefab, I've got this little arrow here. So I'm going to hit that arrow. I'm going to hit F and zoom in on it. I can add stuff to this and it will cascade. So all my coins will just be like way cooler in just a minute. So I'm going to add some more game objects. So I'm going to add a 2D sprite. I'm going to make a circle again. And I'm going to shrink it down some. We're just going to call this 0.85 and 0.85 on the scaling. And then we'll move it back up to 0 and 0. And I'm going to change the color of this to be a little bit darker. And then I'm going to add something else. So I'm going to do a game object, 2D object, sprites, and I'll do a square this time. Again, shrink it down. Move it to about the center. I'm going to make that at 0, 0. And then this order and layer is going to come in handy. So I want this up higher. So I'm going to just change that to like a higher number. And then I'm going to make it the same yellow as this. And now that looks a little more like a coin that we have definitely not seen in games by Nintendo. What are you talking about? I didn't rip anybody off. Oh, and I didn't layer the other one right. So this middle circle needs to come up between. All right, so now that's good. Auto save is on when I'm in this prefab mode that whites everything else out and lets me change stuff. And so I just go backwards. Now all my coins look much cooler. Behold the power of prefabs. Just feels better to get nicer looking points, right? All right, that's the assignment. It has to have the sprite we made. Use him as the player. Make the slimy guy the coin. I don't care. Turn him into a bunch of walls. But make sure that's in there. Have some fun with it. Make kind of a cool looking level. Change colors up. That's it. Scripting isn't that scary, I promise. The biggest deal is getting all the brackets and the semicolons in the right spot. That's it. Work on this. Game design document, color palettes, all that kind of fun stuff. Cool? What? What? He wants to give me a high five? Is that the...
If your slide looks ugly, can you make him look better?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
My slide looks really ugly.
Yeah. My parents didn't have that option, but here we do. So, make him look better. All right. Have a good weekend.
Yay!
Not that good. Yeah. Oh, I should turn this off.